Okay, so we are now recording. We're going to go ahead and get started, and I do want to say, as we go through this presentation, we're going to have a couple different speakers. We're going to start doing these also via webcam for on these webinars. So we'll also be joined by Julia Daly and Liz Murphy, who will be speaking at various times. So we'll all sort of isolate their webcams so they can speak. As we get started, I do want to ask everyone to please press *6 to mute your lines. I also have the ability to mute your lines independently on my end here, but if you do receive another call, please do not place the call on hold. That will, by doing so, we will listen to whatever music you have playing in the background. So I'm going to go through here. I'm still hearing some feedback. I'm going to mute a couple lines, so just one moment. Again, you can press *6 to mute your own line. Okay, there we go. So as we start in this presentation, we're going to go over a couple different things. I do want to say I am monitoring the chat box that you can access at your control panel at the top of your screen. So as we go through the presentation, if you have questions, ask them via the chat feature, and I will take opportunities throughout the presentation to answer questions. We also will have an open forum at the end of the presentation where you can ask any questions on any topic that you want. We may not have the answers for you here in the presentation, but we will try to answer or at least direct you to where you need to go. So I'm going to talk about a couple different things today. First, going to give you some program updates on things that are happening within the Disaster Cycle Services on a national level, where some things are, and some new things that will have impacts on everyone within the region. Then we're going to talk a little bit about where we stand with the Division Capability Work Groups, and that's where we'll turn it over to Julia Daly to talk about that, as well as some of the new functions of our Division Task Groups. Then I'm going to talk about a new thing that we're about to start rolling out. It's called the Swarm Speakers Bureau. I do have some people here that are apparently our conference line is maxed out. I know we have some people who can't get on the line. I'm going to reply back to them via the chat feature. But we are recording this presentation, so if any of you are hearing people that are texting you, emailing you saying they can't get on the line, we're recording it, and we will be posting it to our division YouTube channel a little bit later. So we're going to go ahead and keep going, though. So we're also going to go to Liz Murphy, who's our divisional point of contact for the Home Fire campaign. She'll give us an update on some reporting aspects of the campaign, as well as some other updates. And then we'll open up to our open forum. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into the program updates. And the first one that we're going to talk about is our concept of operations. So, back in spring, we spent a lot of time going around the division in each region, training on our new concept of operations. The program materials for that, so our program essentials, other standards and procedures documents, have now just been released. And so those are all up on the exchange, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what those materials are and what the next steps will be as we start to fully integrate these materials into our regional programs. So the first one is our standard concept of operations. So what this replaces our disaster response manual, our operations handbook, all of those materials related to how we had previously managed and operated relief operations have now been retired. So our concept of operations, our program essentials, is really your foundational document for the operational program. Then we start going into other materials, sort of the incident reporting standards and procedures. This talks about how we report initial incidents, how we also use and submit 5266, our statistical data on relief operations. So included in this are also our new initial incident report template, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And then our operations planning standards and procedures. So this is the initial the IAP, the incident action plan template, as well as our situation report template. These are all templates that are used during actual physical relief operations, so from level 2 all the way up to level 7. So these are your materials you're going to use on your relief operation, and so that operations planning standards and procedure document really has all that information in it. And I want to say thank you. There were a lot of people that were involved, volunteers and employees from around the division who were involved in the review of these documents. There were several iterations, and a lot of our feedback was incorporated in the documents, which is why it took a little bit of time to get these materials released, because there was a real effort to ensure that these that everything is the best, written in the best possible way for a wide audience. So the other thing we're talking about is, now we talk about those materials that are released. I'm going to tell you that standardized training is currently under development. There's going to be a lot of different training aspects that this is going to entail, not only from our concept of operations, but from the standards and procedures and those types of things. But standardized training is under development. The basic training for sort of our concept of operations, the current plan is they're working very quickly on it to get that out the gate by the end of the calendar year. What we still have, is a PowerPoint slide deck, which we can teach our concept of operations courses. Now, that PowerPoint slide deck that anyone who took that ConOps training back in spring, is the same resource material that we're using until the official class is released. What I can say is that slide deck is sort of a stopgap measure for the training. So it's a non-for-credit class. It's basically a workshop to get everyone up to speed on where we are. And so when the class comes out, the official class comes out, I do believe there will be an expectation that everybody go and take that class. And again, this will be our standardized training for the entire organization. And again, if you do have your line open, if you could press *6 to mute your lines. And if you have questions as we go through the presentation, ask them via the chat feature. We will have an opportunity to ask them over the phone during the open forum part of the call. So some other things working on the ConOps update. The service delivery plan. There's been a lot of feedback specifically on the service delivery plan as we use it for level 2 operations, so our smaller side of the operations, small tornadoes, floods, large apartment fires, those types of things. The service delivery plan is being updated to highlight the required information for level 2 operations. So there's not going to be a separate service delivery plan like there used to be in the past. There used to be a level 2 service delivery plan and then service delivery plans for larger operations. There'll be one plan, but there will be certain aspects that require data just for level 2 operations. What that will mean is that you don't have to spend a significant amount of time trying to fill out a service delivery plan for a large apartment fire with a lot of information that really doesn't impact the services that you're providing. So it's really designed to take that administrative burden down significantly, so we're just capturing the data we need for those smaller level relief operations. So I mentioned here one of the things that has come out has been the initial incident report and the SITREP. And so specifically the initial incident report is a protocol and a template that is designed to be completed at the regional level, and it's to notify the organization of certain types of disasters. And there's a whole bulleted list of the triggers that are required for when we submit an initial incident report. Really what this means is that when you have a disaster, a single-family fire that has a fatality, when there's a disaster where you open shelters or where there's where you have significant media coverage, those are triggers that are outlined in this initial incident report that state that you need to then submit this report up to the RDO, your regional disaster officer, your regional CEO, me your division disaster director, your state relations director, all the way up to Charles as our division disaster executive, and to the doc. So it's designed to be completed. It's intended to be completed by the disaster program manager or another designated response leadership, and then submitted simultaneously to various people within the organization that have a need for that situational awareness. So At this point, the full implementation, where everyone is designed to be using that initial incident report, does not have to occur until January 1st, 2015. So that gives us time to educate, to make sure that the processes are there, the procedures are in place. So continue doing, until you hear otherwise from within your region, continue operating as you have been doing, and you'll get further instructions from your regional leadership as we approach that January 1st, 2015 time for when we have to start using this initial incident report. The IAP, your incident action plan, and the overall planning process. And again, if you haven't taken the ConOps course back in spring, a lot of this may not make sense, but it will as you start taking the course. But the planning process is the process that we use on a daily basis during relief operations. Should now be used on all operations. There will be some latitude given. We understand that the IAP process, your incident action plan, the physical document, and the overall planning cycle is still new. And so every time we establish a relief operation, we're going to have to train and learn the new process. And so that's why I encourage everyone to use that on a relief operation. But there will be some latitude that will be given for the next couple of months on, following the processes, the procedures to a T. I do encourage you, though, that if you do have a relief operation, try to follow it as close as possible, because there will become a time here in the next several months where it will sort of be official, and we have to start using the exact process and procedures for the IAP and that planning process on a relief operation. So there's latitude as we're learning, but if you do have the opportunity to use it on a relief operation, I really encourage you guys to try to stick to it as much as possible, just for education and learning. So that's where we stand with the ConOps procedures. And again, I don't have any questions on it in the chat feature, but if you have questions, be sure to ask them, and then we will also have an opportunity at the end for the open forum to discuss anything else. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was training updates, and this is something that has just rolled out over the last couple of days. These are sort of our new instructor courses that we have available. So we have our basic instructor fundamentals, which is a web-based, it was really designed to replace that self-assessment component of the training. That was rolled out, I believe, in mid-September. The basic instructor specialty training, which is a one-day classroom-based course, rolled out a day or two ago, and so that is now officially out. That basic instructor specialty training classroom-based course replaces our disaster instructor specialty training. That is the DISC class. The DISC class will officially be retired on November 15th and should not be taught anywhere after November 15th. In fact, now that we have the basic instructor specialty training course out, I would encourage you guys to if you have an instructor class, to ensure you're teaching that. We do have a advanced instructor fundamentals course. That is a web-based course that is still in development, and so that will be for any individuals that have that are your advanced instructors should be required to sort of take that web-based course. So the big key to this, of how this will change as we start to roll these programs out, is the disaster instructor certification program. And just posted, it's a guideline. It's actually really easy to read, has a lot of really great checklists and information in it about how instructors are certified in this new program. And the intention of this is to ensure, as we work to standardize disaster services in the Red Cross across the organization, we're really looking to standardize how we administer our training programs. And a key aspect of this is the disaster instructor certification program. The important thing to know is that everyone who is a current basic or advanced instructor has to go and be recertified in this instructor certification program. And that's because they're, in different chapters, different regions, there may have been slightly different processes, slightly different plans. So this is, again, to make sure we are all operating under the same under the same guidelines. And so there is a April 1st deadline to ensure that all of our current basic and advanced instructors are recertified. And so, again, it's a really great resource document. I'm going to send you guys out when I push this on YouTube. I'll push the YouTube link out. I'll also send you some links to where you can find all these materials, because, again, we know there's a lot of information on the Exchange. And so it's great resources to look at. A couple different key things to talk about. There are still exemptions for our professional instructors. So individuals that are professional trainers, teachers, college professors. There's a checklist for how to get those individuals engaged as a disaster trainer without having to go through a basic instructor specialty training, since they already do that from a professional standpoint. So really great resources. And again, the division, your region, we're all here to support as we work to recertify our workforce and our current basic and advanced instructors. And I did have someone ask a question, asking me to email the slide deck when we're done. If anyone is interested, just send me an email and I'll send you a copy of the slide deck. I don't want to just send out, because it's a big PowerPoint and it takes up a lot of space. So if you do have an interest in the physical slide deck, not just the YouTube link, send me a link, send me an email, and I'll get that out to you. So some other resources that we have available that have just come out is the Deploy Fundamentals course. This is a course to talk about how we deploy. And then we have the Disaster Responder Information Guide. Those have both been released. Those are individuals' a guide that tells you, what disaster responders need to know as we're really talking about deployments and those types of things. I did have a question that came through the chat feature regarding training. It said, which course do current instructors complete to recertify, basic or advanced? It depends on where they are. If you're an advanced instructor, you have to have the basic and advanced course. And again, the advanced course is not out yet, but it will be a web-based course. If you're just a basic instructor to recertify, you just have to have that basic course. And again, as well as the basic instructor fundamentals. So everybody has to take that. But if you're an advanced instructor, you have to take all three. If you're a basic instructor, you just have to take these two. And again, the classroom is a one-day in-class base. So it's not a two-day course as the previous DIST course was. So another resource for our caseworkers, the National Disaster Legal Aid resource. This is and I put the link on the website here. This is as you're working both during relief operations and also, during your day-to-day casework. We know we have issues of clients that have need for legal resources. This is a network of legal aid resources across the country. So you can go onto the website, find the resource, and try to provide those best possible referrals to our clients as those issues present themselves. So at this point, we are about to move on to our conversation regarding our capability work groups. I'm going to activate Julia Daly's camera. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to Julia. And I'm not sure if I accidentally muted Julia's line. So Julia, start talking and we'll see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yay. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for being on the call this afternoon. It looks like a really good turnout, so we appreciate that. Just wanted to give a quick update on our division capability work group. So back in June, we kind of started the recruitment process, and since that time, they've really grown and accomplished quite a bit in their short time working together. So we have about 75% volunteer leadership on the division capability work groups. And for those that aren't familiar with what they can do or what they currently do, they're really focused on kind of division-wide strategy and solutions for our region. So if there are common issues, concerns, questions that come up from the region, these capability work groups have subject matter expertise in one of the 10 different areas that the groups are formed around, which are the core and pillar processes, in addition to training and exercises. And these groups will come together, talk about the issue, and come up with a solution. So that's kind of what they do. And we had just finalized the project proposal process. So if you do have a particular area that you would like a division capability work group to take a look at, do some work on, and come up with a solution around, that process is now open, and the web address is on the slide here that you can go to. Even if you don't currently have a project in mind, you can go and just take a look at what projects have been proposed, what status they're in. And so some of the projects that are currently underway or have recently been completed, we do have the Respond group working on a common request that we've seen from almost every region, which is to identify subject matter experts in our gaps. So what used to formerly be the activity leads at the national headquarters, somewhat similar support at the division level. So that's an example of a very valuable project to every single region and across the division that the Respond group has just started working on. We've seen a lot of document reviews, as Neil mentioned. We're continuing to see new documents come out of national headquarters. We do have the opportunity for those subject matter experts in the division to take a look at them, provide feedback, and influence national policy and doctrine. So that's something that we've seen a lot of our capability work groups take on. We've also recently completed a draft from the Information Management and Situational Awareness group of a division-wide newsletter that would capture some of the activities that are going on both within division capability work groups and within regions, highlighting some of the activities that are going on. So we're really excited about that new form of communication as well. And one of the big projects that one of our capability work groups is on right now is something that you're probably just starting to hear about, which are the division task groups. So most applicable to the capability work group for recovery, as you can see, there have been some requests from the regions for opportunities for volunteers that are interested in virtual support, in addition to some, additional requests for support, given some changes that we've seen in some of the staffing patterns in our regions. So to help address those two angles, there have been some recommendations to form task groups, which are distinct from our capability work groups in that they focus on more administrative direct support to the regions rather than broader strategy development. So some examples that you can see here on the slide that Neil just showed us, we do have some opportunities to provide 24/7 casework support so that if that team is out in the field, have a question, they have 3 families that are all living in one residence, how many checks should I issue? So you would be able to call and ask that question of an expert. So it's kind of like our admin on call in some regions. That's an opportunity potentially for some folks that have that subject matter expertise that for whatever reason can't go out in the field or want to support additional regions from a division perspective. So I just kind of wanted to highlight some of the opportunities. If anyone on the call is a volunteer that's interested in one of these opportunities, please talk to Volunteer Services. If you are an employee and you think that you have some volunteers that might benefit from this training that will be offered in each of these specific areas, even if you don't think that your volunteer, for example, wants to support at the division level, I do think this is a great opportunity to get some standardized training across the division. In some of these areas, we really haven't offered training before. For example, how to do a CAP survey. So, just kind of throwing out some different opportunities that if either you as a volunteer or employee with volunteers that might have interest in these areas, please reach out to either myself, Neil, or work directly with Volunteer Services, who will be helping out to support the recruitment for these positions. That's all I have, Neil. Oh, and I apologize. I did just get one question on the chat window here. So just want to highlight that these task groups are opt-in for the regions. It's not something that they're necessarily going to be supported by, but just options that if for a time they would like a little bit of extra support in one of these areas, they are welcome to utilize a division resource to fill that need. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Julia. So, again, we'll have an opportunity for any other questions that come up with this in an open forum a little bit later. So, as you see on here, we have a task group called the Speakers Bureau and Webinars, and this is what I wanted to sort of chat with you guys about now on our next subject. This is the Speakers Bureau that we are in the process right now of populating and developing. So, the Speakers Bureau is really a division-wide resource. It's a resource for everybody in the division, all regions, all volunteers, territories. And what it will be a listing of subject matter experts as well as individuals within the region to identify, unique presentation skill sets, things like that. They'll be cataloged on our neighborhood site, again, accessible to anybody who has access to the exchange or the neighborhoods. And so we'll catalog those by subject area and then types of presentations. And then from there, individuals that if they're having a DAP meeting, a regional meeting, whatever kind of need you have, if you have a need for a speaker on a certain subject, then you can go on to the Speakers Bureau, see if there's someone there who who could speak on that topic, and then you can work with that person to see if they can virtually attend your meeting via webcam, via conference call, webinar, whatever it happens to be. It will be we'll also catalog whether or not the type of presentation they can provide. Some people are just subject matter experts that can be there to help talk through issues at a meeting. We also will have formal presentations. So, and they'll be on a variety of different topics, some related to, large-scale operations, some related to DAT responses, things like that. So I'll give you an example of how this may be used. So let's say you're a disaster program manager and you've recently received some feedback that your case narratives from some of your DAT teams, your case narratives need some improvement. So you go onto the Speakers Bureau, you find somebody from within the client casework area who has a presentation, a 10-minute presentation on improving case narratives. Then you can work directly with that person, have them come out virtually to attend your next DAT meeting and talk about case narratives. So the intention of this is to really allow us to really utilize the experience of everybody in the division so that we can get some, find the subject matter experts where they are, and so that when you're faced with an issue or with something that you may not have the expertise on, there are resources available. So this doesn't replace any of the resources that you have available in the region. This is simply, you can use the Speakers Bureau at your own discretion. It's available to anybody in the division. We also will be looking and we'll be pushing this out as we further develop the Speakers Bureau. It's important to know that any volunteer or employee can be listed as a speaker. So it's not just for people at the division level. It's not just for managers or chiefs. It's anybody who feels they have a subject matter expertise they can offer and a presentation to go along with it in most circumstances. But we are going to ask that all speakers be endorsed by your regional disaster officer or their volunteer partner, or the regional volunteer services director or their volunteer partner. And it's really based on the topic area. We're going to be cataloging topics that can pertain to both disaster and volunteer services, since we're so intertwined. And so there will be some volunteer services, maybe some recruitment, engagement type presentation speakers, things like that, that we're going to have on the Bureau. And so we're going to be pushing that out here pretty soon. And we'll also be working with the regions, with the regional disaster officers and their leadership teams to identify individuals so we can start populating that Speakers Bureau. So we just started putting the resources together yesterday. We've had the plan has been in place for about, a month or 5 or 6 weeks or so. And we're now pulling together the physical resources to start populating this and getting this stuff out. So we're excited about it. We think it'll be a resource based on some of the needs that have been communicated to us. And again, it's there for your use. No one's going to force you to use it. It's there if you need it, which is what the intention is. So at this time, we are going to go to Liz Murphy. And Liz is going to give us some updates on the home fire campaign. So just one moment, and I am going to activate Liz's camera. Okay, Liz, take it away. And Liz, I think you're on mute.
There we go. How's that?
That's good. That's good.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to give you some updates on the Home Fire campaign, specifically on reporting. We've got a good new tool to use. And just to give you some context, I am a member of our Division Capability Work Group. So as you think of questions ongoing, as you need a resource for the Home Fire campaign, make sure to reach out to us. We're there to help you. And you can contact our subject matter expert for the group, who's George Sullivan. And he'll make sure that the group is aware and we can assist you. So what you've got up on the screen right now is the newest reporting matrix. We've had a lot of resources come out. There's a lot of good guides on the Exchange on the Home Fire Toolkit, and each guide has more in-depth information. So what National did was they put this together for us to give a really good, quick reference that we can have at the ready when we've completed a canvassing installation event, and we can properly document that so that National understands the scope of what we're doing. And I'll talk a little bit about how the regions can keep some information as well. So I'm going to walk through this just a little bit. There's about six pieces of information on here, and to make it just a little streamlined for you, when you do home installations, so you're physically going into the home, you're installing a smoke alarm, you're providing education, you're going to want to report that through what is on that first box right there at the Home Fire Preparedness Digital Reporting Guide. All of the links in here, I think Neil will send this out for you, and the work group can send this out also if you need it. All those links are live, so you would click on the homefirepreparedness.org website, and as you install, the ideal method is that you would be reporting each house as you go. So as I would install a smoke alarm, I'm documenting what we did. Did we install an alarm or a battery? How many people live in the home? Did we do a disaster plan? Things like that. You can really dive into that and learn about what you're going to need to do for reporting by visiting that Digital Home Visit Data Tool Guide. It gives you step-by-step on what to do. It's also got the login information. So it's a quick little document worth reading so that you know what kind of reporting is going to be needed. So again, that's house-by-house reporting. If you don't have access to the internet, maybe in the neighborhoods that you're reporting in, if cell signal isn't good or it's just not an option, also by visiting that Digital Home Visit Data Tool Guide, you can take a look at the paper version. It's in your Documenter Reporter Guide as well, so you can have a paper copy to report. But remember, anything that you report on paper does have to be then recorded into the homefirepreparedness.org website. Moving down the list, we're doing education as the second cornerstone of this campaign. The first is our door-to-door installation. The second is our youth education and fire safety. So as you do education in the community in fire, science-based fire education with youth in the classroom, continue to report that like you would report any of your other emergency community preparedness information. So just as you would teach Masters of Disaster or weather safety presentations, continue to report those through the LMS Reach portal. Our region has a system to do that, but if you aren't currently reporting, talk with your RDO and see how you can start to do that reporting across your region. I'm going to jump just a little bit to stay on the topic of the actual installation. After you've completed an entire event, we have an after-action report. You'll see that down at the bottom there. And there's a SharePoint site, the AAR SharePoint Smoke Alarm Installation. So that after-action report is really going to be interesting and to take a look at. We've seen some of the reports come out already from our first few weeks of installation. but not all regions are reporting yet. So if you haven't seen this link before, if this is the first time you're seeing this link, take a look through to see what they're looking for. Basically, we want to capture how many installs we're doing as a region. So this is big picture data. These are your sum totals for your region. So big picture, how many partners did we engage and who were they? Any challenges and successes of the campaign? Your goals, number of volunteers engaged, big picture stuff. So the good thing right now is that the national preparedness team is looking at how regions can pull this data down, because that was one of the first big questions. How can I in the region also get the report of what we're doing big picture? So what they've done right now as an interim solution is that Mondays and Thursdays, they're pulling down this data into an Excel spreadsheet and they're sending it to the division. So they're sending it to the capability work group. So that's something that our work group can share. So you can see what the region is doing after you've put in all of the event information that you've done. Their desire is to have a reporting tool that regions can pull yourself, so you don't rely on a work group or national to provide that for you. So they're thinking maybe 6 weeks, but could be around then. So that's a good tool that they're working on. They're just working with the developers to make that a reality. So on the same token here, so we've done reporting on installation. We've got during, and we've got the after action. So the other hand to that is our volunteer and partner contribution. Just like we track volunteer hours for DAT and disaster response and any other kind of volunteer activity, they want to track volunteer activity for the home fire campaign. So you'll see several links there. Your regional volunteer director is going to have a local version. But take a look at these, work with your RVD, and just make sure that if you haven't talked about this in your region, you understand what's available on your local volunteer connection page. But take a look at some of these links. We're tracking our coalition partners and unregistered volunteers. So as you're recruiting, we know this is a really great opportunity to bring in people to do pre-canvassing or installation who are our partners in the community, maybe recruit some new volunteers. So we're tracking that through the unregistered volunteer hours tracking form, which you can see there up at the top, where we're tracking the number of volunteers trained and how many hours served. So this is going to be some pretty regular processes that we're already used to, hours and partners engaged. We're also tracking, of course, the number of Red Cross volunteer hours. There's a different link. You might be thinking, why do we need a different link? But we wanted to isolate this particular project to better track what we're doing and better report to our grantor, who's helping us fund the home fire campaign over these 5 years, to justify the kind of hours that we're spending and pull that reporting really easily. So you can see that right there. The link to Volunteer Connection, the Red Cross volunteer reporting link. So that's really important that we report our hours in that link. And then finally, we're doing a volunteer satisfaction form. You can see that as most of these are due 7 days after the event, this one is due immediately following, and that's because we want to capture feedback right when it's fresh in a volunteer's mind. And so send that the next business day if you're doing your canvassing on a weekday or weekend. That way we can really capture the volunteer experience and get kind of good feedback. So just to share one or two more things here for you. You'll see on this form that all reporting should be done 7 days after the event. If you did October 11th canvassing and you haven't reported that yet, make sure you go ahead and report that as soon as possible. You can do that, remember, through the after action report to report your big picture data, but any of the house-to-house information that you captured should be reported as well. So when you get this document, click on through, visit the homefirepreparedness.org website and document that as well as the after action report. That'll help us be able to better track what the regions are doing. Some questions on reporting. So we had a national call and some good questions came up that I just want to share. You may have the same questions. What do I need to enter into this system? In the homefirepreparedness.org page, only report the homes where you actually do canvassing installation activity. So where you're physically installing. You're not going to, if you don't actually do any of the campaign activity, you're not going to want to report that. In some of the areas where maybe you're doing installation appointments for the fire department, I would record that because an installation will occur. But any of the door knocks and nobody's home, you don't have to record that. The number of residents, how many people are in the home is a question. Is that required? Yeah, it's required because we want to be able to accurately report again to the grantor on how many people we're serving. So at a minimum, you should put 1, but try and put a very accurate number. You should never put 0 for that. And again, we have the reports on currently what the regions are doing, sum totals, and a breakdown. So the division capability work group can send that to you, and then we'll hope to have that data coming out soon. So one last thing, I want to talk about capturing campaign stories. So we've gotten some really good feedback so far from our division and from the country on what's been working. We've seen already 2 lives, at least 2 lives saved from around the country based on the installation work that we've been doing since October 11th, which is really fantastic. So if you've got pictures, if you've got great stories, volunteer feedback, National would really love to see that. I'm sure your region would as well if you're not yet sharing stories like that. So for National, they've asked that you email them any kind of story, feedback to media3, so that's media and the number 3 at redcross.org. I'm sure Neil can send that out as well. And again, just because it says media in the title, these don't have to be news media stories, although you can forward that along to pick up local media that's covered a house fire and the reporting on that. But again, any kind of experience from clients or feedback from volunteers. So I got a question. If we install a new battery in an existing smoke alarm, does that count in the reporting? Yes. Yeah, we are tracking both installations of brand new alarms and the batteries that we change. So you should definitely track both of those in the homefirepreparedness.org digital reporting site. Okay, Neil, that's what I've got for the home fire campaign. So I'll take questions whenever we're ready.
Excellent, thank you, Liz. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and return back to our presentation here. And it's always a little bit slow, so we'll work through it. So at this point, I'm looking at the chat feature. I see no more questions. So does anyone have any, let's see if I can make this work a little faster. Okay, we're at the open forum now. So and again, I know you can't see it on your screen. Computer's running a little slow. So if you want to ask any open questions, you can still submit questions via the chat feature, or you can press *6 to unmute your lines and ask the questions. You don't have to, they don't have to be just on the topics we talked about. Any sort of disaster cycle information that you're looking for, you can ask those questions as well. And again, if we don't have the answer for you, we'll take it down and try to find one for you. So again, now's an opportunity. Any questions?
Neil, this is George. I had a question about the Speakers Bureau.
Yeah.
How do the folks who might offer to serve on that notify? You might have already mentioned this, but how does one become a member of that Speakers Bureau?
Okay, so the way that you do that, and we'll be sending out instructions, is you have anyone at the region has to one, approach your RDO or your volunteer services director. That's dependent upon what topic it's on. If it's a disaster topic, you've got to go to your RDO or their volunteer partner, or the regional volunteer services director or their volunteer partner if it's a volunteer services related topic. And there, pitch it to them, and they will hopefully endorse. And then at that point, there is a reporting link, and that will be sent out. It's a link where you go and submit your topic. And so once your topic is submitted, you will be added to the Speakers Bureau. That's all it is. It's a basic few things. We're asking for your name, your contact information, and then a short description of what your topic is, and the format and duration of your presentation if you're looking at a formal presentation. Any speaker that does that is signed up to the Bureau, again, the instructions are that whoever is requesting the speaker will contact the speaker directly. The only thing that we ask is that when you're done with the presentation, you go and you'll answer 2 different questions in a reporting portal. What was it, where, or who and where, and then what was the time frame? How long did you spend? That way, we're just trying to capture some data so we can back up how effective and utilize the Speakers Bureau is. So does that answer your question?
It did. Thanks very much, Neil.
Yeah. Thank you, George. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
Okay. There seems to be some duplication of reporting. Is the capability, or can the capability group go back and look at accessing information from other sources so as to reduce some of the duplication?
Angie, can you specify what you're seeing? Because I know there are things there are reports in a couple different places. What are the specific items that you're seeing that are duplicative?
Well, I'm talking specifically about the home fire campaign.
Yeah.
The volunteer hours, and there were some other reports where you put them in one unique place for the home fire campaign, and we have them in other places also to go up the chain.
Liz, can you speak to that?
Yeah, Angie, I don't know if you're maybe referring to the education piece. So in the North Texas region, for education reporting, I report for our region in as a central point person. So I have folks send me a survey that we made in-house to capture education data, and then I go and record that in the LMS portal. So there won't be any duplication of activity there because we're going to just continue to use our own process. In your region, if you don't have a centralized person, if that would be easier, where you don't have a process or you're using a different process, take a look and just make sure you aren't doing double work just to report the same classes. Now, Angie, we're on some of the other ones here. I'll just clarify again. The home visit metrics, which was that first box, is talking about the house-to-house reporting. So this is going to be individual data. It does not aggregate, which would be nice. Maybe it will someday. But it doesn't aggregate to give us some total. So for the time being, we're doing some interim solutions just to make sure that we get reporting from all regions. So right now, the homefirepreparedness.org website doesn't pull aggregate data, which is why we're going to do that SharePoint survey. Just another point of clarification, the division work groups are helping to facilitate the flow of information, but aren't making any of this reporting features. So if you want to give some feedback to National, you could email CPRS at redcross.org and give them some feedback on reporting and what might be easier.
Thank you.
And thank you, Liz. And I do also have another thing. If you do email the CPRS, and you absolutely can do that, I also would encourage you to reach out and talk to your regional disaster officer, and then I would encourage the regional disaster officers to also reach out to their division disaster directors. If you're having issues with reporting or concerns or things like that, let your RDOs know, and then I encourage the RDOs to let your division disaster directors know, so we can work and identify if there are issues in a variety of different areas, and we can try to advocate for changes or advocate for training or whatever it is. So I'd say absolutely, you guys can email the CPRS, but also let your regional folks know, so we can have a better understanding of where the issues are, so we can advocate better on everyone's behalf from either a regional perspective as an RDO or a divisional perspective from the division disaster directors. So, okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I do want to say we have recorded the presentation. I'm going to render the video now, and I've got nothing else on my calendar, so I should have this out pretty soon. Oh, there was one thing that I had printed off here that I wanted to give you guys. This came out, about 90 minutes ago or so. The national organization has released the latest Ebola guidance for how regions can respond should you have an Ebola case within your jurisdiction. As you know, the North Texas region was deeply engaged and really led that response, and really their response really led to the development of this guidance over the past few weeks. And just yesterday, we had another case, a confirmed Ebola case in New York City. So they are now operating under this guidance. And so the guidance is out. I'll send you the link when I pushed out the video, but it is on the exchange now, and it is some pretty detailed guidance for how the Red Cross can get engaged in a way that serves our community while keeping our workforce safe. So thank you all very much, and have a great weekend.